chapter 2. Okay. Don't forget, if you haven't already, to retake the 2.5 through 2.8. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. Because whatever grade you have as of Monday morning will be what's going in the grade book Monday morning. I won't put it in until then, though. So you've got time to retake. Okay. So this first question says, graph the relation. So I have 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, and 5, 2. That's the graph, and then I'm supposed to tell whether it's a function or not. Well, it is, because there's not a vertical line that would pass through more than one point. Right? If these points were all this way, where they were up this way, it would not be a function. Okay? So that one is a function. Next one, 23, 3. So I'm going to just approximate here. I'm going to make each one of these 5. So 3 and 5, 10, 15, 20, 23. Nope. 23, 3. Let's do it that way. 5, 10, 15, 20, 23, 3. And 22, 23. Somewhere there. 21, 3. It's going to be down here. 0, 23. And 1, 3. Let me here somewhere. Okay, so what? Yeah, it's still a function. I didn't repeat any x values. That's another way you could look at it. Okay, because if I had one x value mapped to 2 different points, it would definitely not pass the vertical line test, because I'd have 2y, or yeah, 1 point with 2 y's. Okay. Evaluate 2 times x squared minus 4 plus 1 when x is 0. So I just put in 0 for x. And I have to do 2 times negative 4 plus 1. It's negative 8 plus 1, which is negative 7. Okay. Graph the equation. It's in slope-intercept form. So to graph in slope-intercept form, what do I do? What do I start in slope-intercept? Y-intercept first. Okay, good. 1, 2, 3.
No. Yes. And then your slope is negative 2 over 1.
I'm thinking, I was looking at number 5.
Okay. All right, and the slope is negative 2 over 1. So I go down 2 over 1. Connect them, sort of, and you've got your line. Okay, write an equation of the line that passes or that has the given properties. So no parallel perpendicular yet. We're just creating the equation of a line. They give me the slope and they give me a point. Is that point the y-intercept?
No.
No. How would I know if it was?
You need to plug it in.
No.
Plug in, so negative 3 equals negative 1.
The x would be a 0.
Yep.
If it's a y-intercept, the x is a 0. So they did not give me the y-intercept. They just gave me a point on the line. So I'm going to just start with the slope. I don't know the y-intercept, which is b. But I do have a point. So I'm going to plug it in. And negative 1/2 times negative 4 is positive 2. Everybody see that? Equals. So I have to subtract 2 from both sides. B is equal to negative 5. So the equation of my line is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 5. And I'm done. Questions on that process? So you've got the slope. You're just going to take the point they give you and plug it in for x and y, solve for b, and you've got your equation. Okay, now they give me 2 points. Is 1 the y-intercept?
Yes.
Yeah, which one?
The second one.
The first one? 0, 5?
Yep.
Yep. So I know b. b is 5 in my equation, right? So now I just need to find the slope. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Negative 5 minus 0 is negative 5. So my slope is 1. And I'm done. It's really nice when they give you the y-intercept, but you have to be able to recognize it. Otherwise, you're going to be plugging a point in and solving for y. You'll get the same thing. It's just going to take more time. Write an equation of a line that passes through 5, 5 and is parallel to this line. Well, if it's parallel, what do we know about the slopes? The slopes are equal or the same. What is the slope of a line in standard form? Who remembers the equation?
A over B.
Negative a over b. If you can't remember that, the only other choice you have is to take this equation and convert it to y equals mx plus b. So we'll do it both ways. Okay. First, I can see the slope should be negative 2 over negative 2, which is 1. But let's go ahead and convert it to y equals mx plus b. Subtract 2x, and I get negative 2y equals negative 2x minus 3. Divide by negative 2, I get y equals x, which is just 1x, plus 3 halves. Okay? I don't care what the y-intercept is of this line. All I care about is the slope, because I need to find the slope so they can be equal. Okay? So don't think just because you found the y-intercept, this is the y-intercept of your new line. It has nothing to do with the new line. The slope is the only thing that matters. But do you see that both ways I got the slope to be 1? Which way is easier? Negative a over b. So if you can remember negative a over b when it's in standard form, that gives you the slope. It'll save you a lot of time. If you can't, you're going to have to solve for y and find the slope that way. So the slope is 1. So I'm going to write my equation. I'm not going to write the 1 because it's implied. And it goes through 5, 5. So I'm just going to plug 5 equals 5 plus b. What's b? 0. So the equation of the line that's parallel to that one is y equals x. What kind of line is that? Where does it go through? If there's no y-intercept? Nope. Huh? No.
What's the other one? Undetermined.
No. It goes through the origin. Because there's no y-intercept, or it's 0, right? So it's going to go through the origin. Y equals x. If I graph it, it's 1, 1, 2, 2. Goes through the origin. Okay. So that's the equation of the line that goes through 5, 5, and it's parallel to 2x minus 2y equals negative 3. This one, perpendicular. They give us it in y-intercept form, or slope-intercept form, which is nice. What is special about two lines that are perpendicular to each other regarding their slope? Opposite reciprocal. So the slope of this line is 1/2. What's the slope of a line perpendicular to it? Negative 2. Okay? So I have y equals negative 2x plus b. And I'm going to plug this point in. I get negative 4 equals positive 4 plus b. Subtract 4. b is equal to negative 8. So the equation is y equals negative 2x minus 8. Questions on that? Okay. Graphing inequalities, what are the 3 things you need to do? The first is what? Graph the line. Graph the line as if it were an equal sign. Graph the line. That's the first step. Second step?
Determine if it's solid or dashed.
Good. Third?
Shade.
Shade. So you have to do all 3 for inequalities. Don't forget that. Okay, so first I'm going to graph it as a line. Well, this is just x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Right? Is that going to be a horizontal or vertical line?
It's going to be a horizontal.
Which one is it, horizontal or vertical?
Oh, no, it's vertical.
Vertical. Because every point along the line, x has to be equal to negative 3. It's going to be a solid because it's got the or equal. And how do I figure where to shade? Well, Well, on lines like this, it's pretty easy because it's telling me x is every value greater than or equal to -3. So it's going to be shaded everywhere to the right forever. Okay, I could put a test point in, 0, 0. Is 0 greater than -3? Yes, so 0, 0 is included in the shaded area. Okay, next one. X is greater than 2y plus 1. I could do one of two things. I could move it into standard form and then use the intercepts to graph it, or I could solve for y. I'm probably going to choose the standard form because if I solve for y, I can see already I'm going to end up having to flip it over and I might miss the sign flip because I know myself. You've got to know yourself and know which way is easiest for you. But if I just move the 2y over, I have it in standard form. I don't need to put the plus there. Right? And to graph something in standard form, you just cover up the x and cover up the y. You just substitute 0 in for x and solve for y, 0 in for y, solve for x. So if I cover x up, I'm left with -2y is greater than 1. Divide by -2, right? So y is less than, well, let's just solve the equation. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to graph the equation. So make it n equals. Don't solve it, the inequality. Okay, so if I cover this up, I have -2y equals 1. Divide by -2, y equals -1/2. So y equals -1/2. There's my first point. Now I'm going to cover up the 2y, and I get x equals 1. There's my second. Okay, when I connect these 2 points, will I use a dashed line or a solid line? Dash, because it's not or equal to. And there's my line. Now I have to shade. Is 0, 0 on my line? No, so I can use it then as a test point. Okay, I put 0, 0 into the function, as it's written here. Is 0 greater than 1? No, so this point is not included in the shading, which means it has to be the other side of the line. That's where the shading happens. Everybody following how to graph inequalities?
Yes.
You say that now.
Yeah. You see, it's easy when you do it.
I would encourage you, if you haven't done the review, or even if you have, to take this recording, have the first problem, pause the recording. You do the problem, start the recording, see how I do the problem, check it against how you do it, and make sure that you understand every problem and how to do it. Because, like Tristan said, when I do it, it looks easy, but you have to practice doing it. And if you're not doing the classroom problems on WebWork, and you're not doing CK12, which I think I only had 3 people do CK12, apparently you guys don't need the practice, but your quiz tells me otherwise. Okay, so you're not taking advantage of the opportunities that you have to learn this, which, I mean, I'm giving you lots of practice, but it's your choice. Just don't be upset when you don't get the grade you want, because you're not doing the work. Okay, that's on you, not me. Okay, what is the shape of number 11?
What'd you say?
What is the shape of number 11?
A V.
A V. So when you're finished graphing this problem, if your shape is not a V, you've done something wrong. Okay? Oh, I don't want that color for this. Okay, the general form of absolute value is this. How could I write this in the general form? Well, there it is. Okay, what does HK tell me? The vertex. Okay, H is 0, K is 2. My vertex is at 0, 2. What does the 1/2 tell me? Slope. Yep. And it's positive, so I know the slope's going to be going up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. And it has to be mirrored on the other side to get my v. And it's an equation, so I don't have to worry about dashed or solid or shading. That's it. I just had to graph it. Questions on how to graph these? Okay, get it into its general form, figure out what the vertex is, and then use the slope, the coefficient in front of the absolute value sign. Find the domain and range of the relation, then determine whether the relation is a function. Well, the domain is -3. You don't have to write it over and over and over and over again. The range is, I'll just start with 0, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Again, these squiggly lines tell me that it's exactly the numbers inside. There's not a range there. It's exactly 0 or 1 or 2 or 3. That's the range. It's not 0, 2, 3. 1.5 is not in the range. Exactly 1 is. Exactly 2 is. Exactly 3 is. That's what this means. It's a set. Okay, when we put the parentheses or brackets in its interval notation, we're saying all numbers between those two numbers. That's not the same thing. I'm saying exactly what the domain and range is by putting those squiggly lines around it for set notation. Okay? Determine whether the relation is a function. Well, it looks like x is repeated over and over and over again. If I were to actually graph this on a number line, it would be horizontal line, or vertical line, sorry. And a vertical line definitely wouldn't pass a vertical line test because everywhere on the vertical line, that vertical line would be going through every point. So not a function. Find the x-intercept and y-intercept. All you had to do was find it. You didn't have to graph. To find the x-intercept, so I would label that, I plug in 0 for y, because everywhere on the x-axis, y is 0. When y is 0, I get 2x minus 6 equals 0. 2x equals 6, so x is 3. So my x-intercept happens to be 3, 0. My y-intercept happens to be when x is 0, because everywhere on the y-axis, the value of x is 0. So I plug in 0 for x, and I get 3y equals -6, so y equals -2. There they are, the x and y-intercepts. That's it. Okay, graph each inequality. So now,
You have to have a V.
I have to have a v. This is kind of difficult to figure out the general form. It doesn't really match up because I have a coefficient in front of the x inside the absolute value. So my best bet here is probably just to do a quick table of values. And I'm going to use negative numbers and positive numbers because I know there might be both here. So -3, when x is -3, I get 6 plus 2 is 8. When x is -2, I get 4 plus 2, which is 6. -1 is 2 plus 2, which is 4. 0 is 2. 1 is 0. 2 is -2. 3 is -4. Everybody see that? But these can't be negative, right? Because it's absolute value. Now I'm just going to plot these. -3, this is 0 here. -3, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Somewhere up there. -2, 6. 6. And -1, 4. And 0, 2. And now I'm going back. I could have 1, 0. 2, 2. And I'm starting to see the V now. Right? The vertex happens to be at 1, 2, or 1, 0, sorry. That was it. But, am I done?
No.
No. So what should I have done with my graph?
It needs to be a dash line.
Yes, it needs to be a dashed line. Let's see if I can make my eraser smaller. I can't remember where I change it. Right here.
And then you need to shade.
Yep, and how do I figure out where to shade?
Is 0, 0 included?
Yeah, and it's not,
So,
so I can use it. So is 0 greater than 2?
no.
No. So 0, 0 is not included. I shade inside. If 0, 0 were included, I would shade outside. Okay, so if you can't get it into the general form, the way we learned how to graph, by just doing a table of values, works with any of these graphs. Okay, just do a quick table of values and see. And if your table of values, if you just picked those points and all you had was 4 points all in a line, you know you haven't picked enough values down because it has to be a V. So don't just graph a line and move on. Look at your graph, and if it's a line and not a V, you've got to keep going until you can find where that vertex is and it turns back around. Make sense? Okay. What's the slope of a line that's perpendicular to y equals -3? What kind of line is y equals -3?
It's a horizontal.
Horizontal. What's the slope of a horizontal line? 0. So what's the slope of a vertical line? Because that would be perpendicular to a horizontal. Undefined. Undefined. Okay, use the set of points below. I'm okay on this problem. If you have a problem like this on the test and you want to use the graphing calculator and use stat, more power to you. If you want to just graph it normally and come up with your own equation, no problem. Okay, either way. But if you do that, I must see your work. You can't just randomly pick an equation out of the air without me seeing how you found it. Okay, so at first you do need to draw the scatter plot, even if you're going to use the calculator. I want to see you draw the scatter plot. So I have 8, 6, 8, 6, 6, 9, 6, 9. Actually 8, yeah, 8, 6 is there. 10, 14, 10, 14.
8, 12.
Oh, thank you. I don't know where I got 8, 6. 9, 14. 9, 14. And 7, 11. And 10, 15. So it does have a kind of a general positive correlation. I definitely couldn't connect all of them and end up with a straight line. So I've got to come up with my own line. So I'm just going to take this point here. I'm going to draw an oval around all my points. Then I'm going to pick at the end of this oval and the end of this, and somehow, magically, with straight line as I can, if you use a ruler, it's better. I'm going to get that. So I'm going to look at my line and see if I can find 2 points. And it looks like this point and this point, which actually are on the graph. They don't have to be from the graph, but my 2 points that my line goes through are actually through 2 points on the graph. And those points are 8, 12, and 10, 15. Okay, so I'm supposed to use 2 ordered pairs to write a prediction equation. So my slope is 15 minus 12, which is 3, 10 minus 8, which is 2. Sorry, 2. There's my slope. To find b, I'm just going to pick one of these points and put them in. So I'll pick 12, 8, or 8, 12. This ends up being 12. So I don't get a y-intercept. So my equation is just this one. Y equals 3/2 x. And, I mean, my line does seem to go pretty close to through the origin, which would tell me there's no y-intercept. Now, if you do it on a graphing calculator, are you guys doing it on a graphing calculator? What did you get for the equation?
A is 1.35, B is 1.25.
A is 1.35. And B is 1.25. So the actual graph does go a little above 0 if you do it exactly on the graphing calculator. But if you've done this work, you get credit for it because every equation is different when you're approximating this way, using this method. Okay, and now it says use your prediction equation to predict the number of points scored when 20 field goals are attempted. Just put 20 in here. Huh. 20 over 2 is 10 times 3 is 30. When you put 20 into your equation, what do you get for the number of field goals? Put 20 in for x here. 20 times 1.35. Are you doing that? Plus 1.25.
28.25.
28.25. So it's pretty close. I got 30 with mine. 28.25 is actually the number. Okay? Either way, whether you want to use the graphing calculator or you want to do it yourself, I'll accept either answer. Okay, ticket prices. Student tickets for a football game cost $2 each. Adult tickets cost $4 each. Tickets, ticket sales at last week's game totaled $2,800. Write a model that shows the different numbers of students and adults who could have attended the game. It just says write a model. You don't even have to solve. Okay, so I would say X, I'll call students, let's call students S. S times $2 plus, let's call the adults A. 4 times A equals 2,800. I don't have enough information to solve it because they didn't tell me anything about the number of tickets sold or anything like that. So that's as good of a model as I can get. Which of the following relations is not a function? That's the only one. Everything else is a function. I take a vertical line through the first letter A and I'll never pass through more than 1 point. Same for B and C. D is the only one that would not pass the vertical line test. Find the x and y intercept of the graph 3x plus 4y equals 12. Then graph the equation using the intercepts. So the x-intercept happens when y is 0. So when y is 0, x is 4. The y-intercept happens when x is 0, and that would be 3. So I graph 4, 0, and 0, 3, and I'm done. This was not an inequality. 21 was just like several of the problems you had in web work. It wasn't quite as hard because you already given the slope. So it says find the value of k so that the slope of the line through 2 negative k and 4 negative 1 is negative 2. So I'm going to say negative 2 over 1 equals negative 1 plus k, y2 minus y1, and 4 minus 2. Now I'm just going to simplify. I'm going to make this k minus 1 just for my sanity. Now I just cross multiply and I get negative 4 equals k minus 1. Add 1, negative 3 equals k. So if k is negative 3, the slope of that line is negative 2.
When I did mine, I think I got 5. Or negative 5.
I don't know. Okay. Test is tomorrow. Multiple choice. Review was not. It was all short answer, so it was a little harder than the actual test will be. Okay. And don't forget, retake 2.5 through 2.8 before Monday if you don't want it to go in the grade book by Monday.